Rio is kid, Humit struck Cohen before he even got adult. Yup, instant ice guy. He wakes up surrounded by clouds, standing right in front of Michael. But for his surprise, Michael isn't sending him to the afterlife. Instead, Michael says Rio is being sent to another world to live however he wants. Rio, being Rio, says he just wants a slow and relaxing life. Michael's totally fine with that. But before sending him off, Michael gives him a quick preview of the new world. The world is called Phi, a land filled with magic where about 20% of the population can cast spells based on their affinity. In Rio's case, his affinity is super high with water, perfect for that relaxed spa life. Dream, he gets reincarnated into the forest of Rando, where he's given a cozy little house, a monster-blocking barrier, 2 months' worth of food, 2 tutorial books, and a knife. After being reincarnated, Rio wants to test his magic. He steps outside and shouts, "Water, come forth." A ball of water forms in his hand that soon he realizes he doesn't even need to chant spells. Just imagining it works fine. Next, he heads to the bathhouse to fill the tub. Soon he faces a problem. He only knows how to make cold water. So he tries to make fire using wood, but he completely fails. Frustrated, he lies on the ground, staring at the sun. Then an idea hits him. He filled the water and compressed it while removing the heat and make magnifying glass. Efficacies the sunlight and makes a fire. Boom. Hot bath unlocked. By the end of his first day, Rio feels proud. He's learned how to make ice from water and even started fire with ice. His next goal was to learn how to make warm water. The next morning, while eating breakfast, another problem hits him. 2 months of food won't last forever. Sooner or later, he'll need to hunt monsters. But a single knife won't be enough, so he starts training his attack magic. His first attempt was launching water balls at trees. It works, but it was not very strong. Then he tries a water jet, also weak. He recalls Michael's words, "Magic depends on imagination." The clearer he pictures it, the more powerful it becomes. So he trains for days, slowly improving. He learns to make ice from the humidity in the air. It took much time to cast. He kept training after pushing himself too far. He collapses from mana depletion, but keeps practicing every day until he gets faster and stronger. Now, Rio can form ice shields in seconds and create ice shards, though he can't launch them effectively yet. Confident enough, he makes his weapon and ventures into the forest. Soon, he finds animal tracks following them. He finds a river, where he discovers quartz helps fire making and starts collecting herbs for detoxifying. He decides to head home, until his bad luck strikes that he heard a voice from his back, and when he turned, he comes face to face with a lesser boar which charges at him immediately. Rio was frozen in fear. He barely jumps out of the way at the last second. The boar comes at him again, but this time Rio creates ice under its feet, making it slip. He quickly summons ice shards, and the boar goes down instantly. After that close call, Rio heads home and reads his monster guidebook. It says lesser boars are the easiest monsters, but towards the end, he finds 2 unique pages. The first one is about dragons, which can destroy cities all by themselves, and Akumas, fallen angels with unknown origins. The advice from the book: ID to just run immediately. The next day, Rio goes out hunting again. While enjoying a fruit, a giant assassin hawk swoops down at him. The creature uses wind magic to strike. Rio dodges, building ice blocks for defense, but it's relentless. With no escape, he fights back with his water jet but Hemesis. When the hawk dives again, Rio slashes its eye with ice, forcing it to retreat. Before flying away, the hawk locks eyes with him, like it's saying, "I'll be back for round 2." Rio breathes a sigh of relief, but realizes he's lost in the forest. While trying to find his way back, he stumbles upon a glowing lake. In the middle stands a Dullahan, and it definitely notices him. The following days, Rio keeps training. His water jets can now cut rocks, his shields are bigger, and his ice shards stronger. Every night, he fights the Dullahan. He always loses, but instead of killing him, the Dullahan seems to be training him, eventually handing him an ice sword. Later, Rio encounters the assassin hawk again, but now it's evolved. Faster and stronger, Rio tries to defend himself by the shield, but the hawk destroys them easily. He also uses sound waves to disrupt his magic. His shields shatter instantly. Soon, it launches lightning from the sky, nearly killing him. With no choice, Rio clashes blade against claw in a desperate fight. Finally, he stabs the hawk as it dives, killing it. Though he feels bad, Rio thanks the hawk for making him stronger before finishing it off. That on his way home, Rio's journey levels up again. A dragon appears before him. Remembering the book's warning, he thinks it's the end for him. But instead of attacking, the dragon speaks. Telepathically, it asks if Rio has seen a black hawk. Still panicking, Rio admits they fought, and he killed it. The dragon is impressed, especially when it notices the sword Rio carries. It recognizes it as the Fairy King's blade, meaning Rio must have done something extraordinary to earn it. The dragon likes him and shares some information about the world before leaving. Meanwhile, up in heaven, Michael checks Rio's file and discovers something shocking. Rio has a hidden trait not seen in 10,000 years, eternal youth. Michael is stunned. The next day, while Rio is adventuring through the forest, he stumbles across a wrecked boat on the beach. Looking around, he spots a dead man nearby. But then, he hears a faint grunt. Excited to find someone alive, Rio rushes over, and sure enough, there's a survivor. That man is Abel. He was dreaming how a sea monster destroyed their ship. When he wakes up, he finds his belongings beside him. He gathers them up and steps outside, where Rio greets him. Abel is shocked because it can't sense Rio's presence at all. Judging by Rio's ragged clothes, he assumes Rio is poor, but wisely decides not to say anything rude about the man who saves him. Abel introduces himself and thanks Rio for saving his life. Rio just brushes it off, saying not to worry. He explains that Abel was the only survivor he could save. Abel shrugs, it is what it is. But then his stomach growls. Rio, being a good host, invites him for lunch. While they eat, Abel casually asks why Rio isn't wearing proper clothes. Then it hits him. Rio probably doesn't have any money. Rio admits that there are no towns around here, so buying clothes isn't even possible. Abel also realizes that the food they're eating is all self-hunted. Impressed, he asks if Rio uses the knife to hunt. Rio laughs it off and explains, the knife is only for butchering. He actually hunts using water magic. This revelation shocks Abel, since in the city only about half the people can even use magic. After lunch, Abel asks Rio to take him back to the place where he found him. He wants to look for something. On the way, he notices Rio doesn't carry a staff. When he asks about it, Rio admits he doesn't have one. Abel immediately assumes Rio can't afford one. He tells Rio that if monsters appear, Rio should take the front line. Rio refuses at first, but after some persuasion, he reluctantly agrees. When they reach the coast, both of them are surprised. The bodies are gone. Rio figures either a monster ate them, or the sea carried them away. Abel admits that without Rio, he would have met the same fate, and thanks him again. Rio shrugs, saying it was just luck. Then Abel says it feels weird for the man who saved his life to call him Mr. He asks Rio to just call him Abel. Rio thinks Abel is older than him, so he's hesitant, but eventually agrees. Abel doesn't find what he was looking for, so Rio asks what his plan is now. Abel decides he'll head to the town of Loon. Rio has never been there, but guesses it should be north. Abel then asks Rio to be his guide. After thinking about it, Rio agrees. On one condition, they leave tomorrow. Abel accepts, and they shake hands before heading back home. That night, Rio reflects. His slow, relaxing life is already over. A new journey is beginning. Later, he tells Abel he needs to say goodbye to someone. Abel is surprised at this late hour. Rio explains that this person can only be found at night. Though confused, Abel remembers Rio saying nobody lives nearby. Maybe Rio hasn't been completely alone after all, but it's none of his business. Rio goes to meet the Dullahan, thanking him for all the training that allowed him to survive in the forest. Since he's leaving for a while, he asks for one last spar. He gives it everything he has, but by the end he's exhausted. Before Rio leaves, the Dullahan gives him a set of clothes as a farewell gift. Rio is grateful. The next morning, both Rio and Abel are ready. Rio wears his new clothes, and together they set off on their journey. Though he's a little sad to leave the forest, he looks forward to what lies ahead. On the way, they encounter a lesser boar. Abel defeats it instantly with his combat skill, Total Impalement. Rio is amazed and asks about the skill. Abel explains it's common among swordsmen and weapon fighters, but since Rio is a magician, he probably never learned it. The next day, they spot 2 lizards. Fighting them in the water would be dangerous, so they detour. But soon, Rio senses a group of lizards advancing toward them. He tells Abel he'll handle them with magic. Abel reminds him he has no staff, but Rio just casts spells directly, wiping them out. Another group of lizards appears, and this time they fight together. After the battle, Abel is surprised again. He says most wind magicians can only use one spell, but Rio explains maybe water magic works differently. Before moving on, Rio conjures cups of water for them. Abel notices Rio uses a completely different incantation from earlier. Rio gets nervous and quickly changes the topic. Later, while moving, Abel shows Rio a coin. Rio is surprised to see actual currency. Abel explains, it's a bronze coin from the Kingdom of Nightly. The central provinces each have their own coins, but they share equal value. The 3 major nations are Nightly, the Dewey Empire, and the Handela Federation. When Rio hears the name Dewey, he frowns. Abel asks if he has a grudge against the Empire, but Rio says no. It just sounds weird. He explains that an empire's name should carry pride. How could anyone go around saying, I'm from Dewey? It feels awkward. Abel laughs and says Rio is overthinking. As they leave the forest, they notice the stones around them shifting. Suddenly, rock golems surround them. While Rio covers him, Abel cuts one with his Total Impalement, but it regenerates and counterattacks. He warns Rio these won't be easy to kill. Rio decides to test something. He creates a massive 10-layer ice wall above the golems and drops it on them, crushing them instantly. Abel is stunned by the skill. Among the remains, one golem isn't moving but isn't destroyed either. Rio guesses it's because golems draw power from the ground, and since this monster is not standing, it can't do anything. Then Abel finds a high-quality magic stone on the golem's head. He was shocked by its high quality. Rio wants to collect more, but since he smashed most of them, it's impossible. They continue onward and soon come across a giant behemoth. Rio wants to fight, but Abel warns it's impossible. Before they can act, a group of wyverns attacks the behemoth. Rio gets excited for a monster versus monster showdown. Abel thinks the behemoth is doomed, but then it unleashes a magic negation ability and kills all the wyverns. Abel is amazed. Rio is thrilled. That night while camping, Rio jokes about wanting to see round 2 of the fight. But Abel was thinking about the magic, saying that kind of magic only shows up in dungeons. Rio's ears perk up. Dungeons? He says he'd love to explore one someday. To his surprise, Abel says there actually is a dungeon in the town of Loon, their destination. Rio is annoyed he didn't mention it earlier. Abel defends himself, saying he didn't know Rio liked dungeons that much. They continue chatting. Abel tells him about dwarfs, famous for their smithing and battle skills. There are a few in Loon. Elves too, though only one lives there. Most elves prefer their own forest settlements. Rio admits that this is exactly how he pictured them in his imagination. The next morning, they approach the mountains. Rio points out that beyond them lies human territory. Abel is surprised Rio knows this much. When asked, Rio recalls how the dragon taught him and simply says it's knowledge beyond human understanding. Abel, satisfied with that mysterious answer, doesn't press further. After moving further, they hear a strange sound. A giant griffin appears, and they prepare to fight, but before the battle begins, Rio throws some meat. The griffin eats it and flies away. Sometimes diplomacy works. After a short rest, they continue, moving, discussing how they would have been dead if they actually fought it. Abel finds it strange, though. Behemoths and griffins? These creatures haven't been seen in centuries. Something is definitely off. But Rio doesn't seem too bothered. Later, Rio points out that the wyverns they saw earlier must have come from the north. Soon, they actually see a group of wyverns hunting animals. Rio prepares to fight, but Abel warns it takes at least 20 trained adventurers to take them down. Rio argues that if they don't deal with them now, they'll have to face them later when it's worse. Without waiting, he goes to fight and impales them with ice shards while Abel finishes them off. But the dying wyverns cry out, summoning reinforcements. 2 more arrive, but Rio drops ice shards on them before they even land, and Abel swiftly finishes the job. They start collecting the magic stones, but yet another group of wyverns appears. This time, even more of them. The two fight relentlessly, killing them all. And so, Rio and Abel continue their journey and gets out of the mountains. Rio and Abel are happy after collecting a mountain of magic stones from the wyverns. But soon a problem comes up. They don't really know where they are. Rio worries for a second that they might have wandered into the Duhi Empire, but Abel quickly reassures him. Relax, that place is much further north. Rio sighs in relief. When Abel asks why he seems so against the Empire, Rio shrugs and says, I just don't like the name. It sounds weird. Abel just chuckles and drops the subject. Not long after, they stumble across a road stretching from east to west. Abel takes a look around and says, if we head west, this road should take us to the town of Kaldi. Rio lights up like a kid hearing the words finally, a town. He's already dreaming of sleeping in a real bed instead of dirt and rocks. While they're walking, Abel teases him to make sure he tries the food there because the town's food hits different. By the time night falls, they finally arrive. They make their way to a tavern and flop down for some much-needed rest. Over dinner, Abel explains the importance of the Adventurers Guild. He says Rio should join, because the guild card works like a magic passport, no town entry fees, and it lets you sell monster parts and magic stones for good prices. Otherwise, Abel smirks. You'd need to become an alchemist just to use those things. Rio's eyes sparkle. Alchemy sounds super cool. But before he can get carried away, their food arrives. And oh boy, curry rice. Yes, curry. Rio stares at the dish like it's a divine blessing, then takes one bite. And it's over. He doesn't stop eating until the plate is clean, then immediately orders another. Abel just watches in disbelief. The next morning, Rio is still raving about that curry. He accuses Abel of keeping such legendary food a secret. What other secrets are you hiding from me? Rio demands dramatically. Abel tries to play innocent, but Rio swears he'll make him pay by dragging him to all the best dessert shops in town. After a long walk, they finally see the town of Loon. At the gate, the guard almost falls over in shock since Abel was supposed to be missing. Abel explains that Rio saved him, and the guard happily shakes Rio's hand so hard it's a miracle his arm doesn't pop off. Their first stop was the Adventurers Guild. Abel explains on the way that, normally, first-time registrants start at F rank. But with the endorsement of a B rank or higher, Rio can skip ahead to D rank. Rio is impressed and proud. His buddy is the real deal as soon as they step inside, chaos erupts. Everyone rushes over, shouting in joy at seeing Abel alive, circling him like a rock star comeback concert. Rio, a little overwhelmed, slips outside for some air. That's when he meets her, an elf girl in the street. She freezes when she spots Rio wearing the Fairy King's gift. Clearly intrigued, she apologizes for being in a hurry but promises she hopes to meet him again. With that mysterious vibe, she's gone. Soon Abel comes out and drags Rio back inside, proudly introducing him as the one who saved his life. Everyone welcomes Rio warmly. Though he's a bit embarrassed being shoved forward like a trophy, they head to the registration desk, where Abel endorses Rio for D rank. The receptionist is shocked. No one from the famous Crimson Group has ever endorsed anyone. After some back and forth, she insists on proof. Abel just smirks and says, I'll take that up with the guild leader. Moments later, the guild leader storms in, shouting with joy that Abel is alive. After an emotional reunion, he turns to Rio. Once he hears the story, sees the pile of high-quality wyvern magic stones, and realizes Rio casually strolled out of a mountain where no one survives. His jaw practically hits the floor since he got proof. He approves the registration, but soon Abel's old teammates burst in, nearly tackling him with hugs and happy tears. Rio and the guild leader step out to give them space, heading to the office to finalize Rio's registration. On the way, the guild leader pats Rio on the back and is shocked at how sturdy he is. Wait, you're a mage? But you're built like a swordsman. Rio, shrugging the compliment off the registration, begins with Lena, the receptionist. After some quick questions, she offers Rio some perks: free guild lodging for 300 days and a free rookie dungeon course. Rio's practically glowing with happiness. She hands him a strange device, and when he places his hand on it, his new guild card pops out with all his details. Lena congratulates him, and just like that, Rio is officially an adventurer. Meanwhile, the guild leader is relieved that Abel has returned, since paperwork has been piling up like a mountain without him. Afterward, Rio and Abel regroup. Abel insists on rewarding him, offering new clothes and even a staff. Rio accepts the clothes, but refuses the staff. "Nah, I prefer fighting with a sword." Abel is floored. "A sword? That thing you carry looks more like a glorified kitchen knife." Rio just shrugs proudly. They chat about the world, and Rio learns that, just like Earth, they measure days, weeks, months, and even centimeters the same way. And they even have curry rice. Rio suddenly gets suspicious. Maybe he isn't the first person reincarnated into this world after all. After some shopping, they attend a welcome back party for Abel and a thank you celebration for Rio. The night is lively and full of laughter. By morning, Rio is exhausted, muttering about how the drinks must have been cursed. Lena reminds him not to forget tomorrow's lecture before leaving him with his new roommates, Nils and Otto. Before long, another boy, Omen, joins them, just 16, already burdened with tragedy. Lena suggests Rio and Omen go to the lecture together. Rio agrees, glad to make another companion. Elsewhere, one of Abel's teammates can't believe the rumors that Rio can summon a massive ice wall midair and drop it on enemies. "Impossible," she shouts. But when the others remember Abel never lies, they reluctantly admit it could be true. Some even compare Rio to the legendary Inferno magician, the one said to wipe out 1,000 Imperial troops and erase entire cities. Abel laughs it off, insisting that Rio's strong but not that ridiculous. Still, the other teammates hope Rio won't join the enemy. He assures them that Rio will never betray them. "Trust me," Abel says. "This guy hates the name Dewey so much, he'd never join the Empire." Rio has already completed the theoretical part of the dungeon lecture, and now it's finally time to step into a real dungeon. Omen is sweating bullets, nervously fidgeting with his sword, while Rio is practically skipping with excitement, patting Omen on the shoulder and telling him to chill out. Before they head in, the lecturer asks if anyone has questions. Rio, of course, raises his hand like a kid in class. Is there any method to instantly travel back to a dungeon after clearing it?" The lecturer blinks, clearly not expecting that kind of question from a rookie. "There are some dungeons like that in the southern provinces, but I've only heard rumors and I can't say much." Rio thanks him casually, like it was just a random thought, while Omen stares wide-eyed. How does this guy know about stuff even veterans barely mention? Rio just shrugs like, trade secret. They head toward the dungeon. On the way, the lecturer explains how the entire town was built around the dungeon to support exploration. He warns them that every few years the monsters inside multiply at insane rates, an event called the Great Tidal Board. During that time, it's not unusual for monsters to crawl out and terrorize the surface, which is why those massive stone walls were built around the dungeon. Normally, adventurers register their names and time of entry at the gate, but since this is just a training lecture, they're allowed to walk right in. Omen is trembling like a leaf, so Rio tells him to take a deep breath. After a few seconds, Omen looks less like he's about to faint. The first layer isn't supposed to have any dangerous monsters, and the lecturer says they can freely explore. Rio and Omen walk together, but Rio's eyes narrow as he spots something moving ahead. Omen can't sense it, but prepares for battle. It's a soldier ant. Rio remembers reading about it. Easy way to kill this thing is by hitting it at the base of the neck. Then Rio slams it down with Thizis magic. Omen charges in, finishing the creature with a clean strike. His hands shake for a moment, but once the ant falls lifeless, his face lights up with confidence. Rio reminds him to loot the monster. Omen blinks. "Wait, we can." Rio laughs. "Of course. Adventurers earn their living through looting. Grab the magic stone, rookie." The two pocket their first dungeon loot, grinning like they just won the lottery. That night, Rio and his 3 roommates celebrate. Nils complains loudly about how they don't serve alcohol in the guild, while Otto stares in awe that Rio and Omen managed to kill a soldier ant on their very first day. Omen tries to downplay his role, saying Rio did most of the work, but Rio claps his shoulder. "Don't sell yourself short. You nailed the finishing blow." Nils waves his hand. "Who cares? You got the stone. That's what matters." So he asks them what plan tomorrow is. Omen sheepishly admits he wants to go back to the dungeon but doesn't want to go alone. Rio smirks. Good thing I'm planning to reach the 3rd layer tomorrow. So why don't we go together? They agree, but Otto frowns. Weird that ants are even showing up on the 1st floor. It's usually just bats. Nils nods. Yeah, I heard a rumor more ants are crawling into the 1st and 2nd floors. Suddenly Abel comes out of nowhere. Everyone freezes. Except Rio. He explains how soldier ants dig tunnels. That's why they pop up on the 1st floor sometimes. The rookies gape in awe, whispering about meeting Abel of the Crimson Sword. Rio, however, rolls his eyes. You know, it's not cool for veterans topic on rookies. Abel chuckles. I was just giving insights. He introduces himself to the group, reminding them that while Rio may be strong, they should still watch his back. Rio squints. Are you trying to pick a fight? Then Nils shoots up from his chair. Wait, you're Abel from the Crimson Sword. You're my hero. He practically begs for a handshake, and Abel obliges with a grin. Stay alive, kid. That's the real victory. Rio asks why Abel's here this late, and Abel says his team just finished a quest. Moments later, one of his comrades storms in, complaining that they've been looking everywhere for him. Another member literally hoists Abel over her shoulder, ignoring his protests as he yells, "Put me down." And one of the girls lingers, locking eyes with Rio before excusing themselves politely. Rio waves them off, telling them dispose of him as they see fit. Abel calls him a traitor as he's carried away. The room erupts in laughter. The rookies are buzzing. Meeting the Crimson Sword in person feels like seeing celebrities. Later that night, the Crimson group walks together. The priestess scolds Lynn for staring at Rio earlier, but Lynn insists she was just trying to gauge his abilities. The priestess frowns, saying it's rude, but Abel grins. Don't worry, you'll all see soon enough. Rio's on another level. Next morning, Omen yells outside Rio's door. Come on, hurry up. Rio, still half asleep, mutters, relax. Dungeon's not going anywhere. They register at the gate and dive back in. This time, they face wolf-like creatures, but the duo works like a well-oiled machine. Rio pins them with ice magic. Omen slices them down to as they rest, Rio remarks. Something in your swordsmanship reminds me of Abel's. Omen explains proudly that he was taught by an old man named Kiro, who was trained in the royal capital's famous Hume school. He uses the school style. Rio nods. You're good, but stamina's your weak point. Running drills will fix that. Even prodigies need training. He tells him how Abel used to get up at dawn every day to practice when they were adventuring together. Omen listens intently, fired up, and promises to work harder. The following day, Rio heads into town and visits the library to study alchemy. It's his first time in such a place, so the receptionist kindly recommends beginner books. Rio grabs a pile, already planning to buy copies for himself. But then, darkness falls. The sky above dims. It's an eclipse. Before Rio can even process, a shadow darts past him, and a fireball slams into his back. He spins, raising ice shields just in time to protect himself. The flames smash against him, but his enchanted shields protects him. And soon another wind attack follows which passed his defense, but he was able to survive thanks to the cloak. Out of the smoke, a girl with horns approaches. Seeing her, he realized that it is in Akuma. Rio's stomach drops. She smirks, clearly expecting an easy kill, but is stunned when her flames don't pierce his defenses. Noticing his fairy king robes, her grin turns sharper. Guess I'll have to cut you down myself. The battle explodes. Fire and wind clash against Rio's water and ice. When she tries to create a fireball, he countered it, tossing his ice before she even could throw it, shocking her with his casting speed. He's dangerous, she mutters. Then they continued to exchange blows one another. In the middle, Rio sees an opening, so he immediately attacks using his water magic. The Akuma defends herself, summoning walls of rock to block his duel. Water jets, but they still slice her shoulder and cheek. Rio charges with his sword, pressing her hard. But soon all her wounds heal. With a roar, she slams him into a building. Don't underestimate me. Then it started raining, but soon she realized that wasn't normal rain, it starts to burn her, so she immediately built a shield breathing hard. She laughs, and says that was fun. My name is Leonor Uraka Albuquerque, and you are? Rio, he replies, still gripping his sword, then says Akama. Her eyes widen. You know our true name. Interesting. I should kill you, but I'm out of time. She smirks one last time. Don't die, Rio. Your life belongs to me now. Next time, I'll be stronger. With that, she vanishes. Rio was relieved. If it weren't for this cloak, I'd have a hole in my chest right now. Shaking off the adrenaline, he picks up his books and heads to check his guild account. To his shock, it's overflowing with money. Happy with that, he buys the book he needs. Meanwhile, his roommates are being bullied by some loudmouths. But suddenly, all the guys fell down except their leader. That is when Rio walks in. With a single strike of his sword's handle, the leader crumples to the ground. Rio mocks him. What now? Gonna tuck your tail and run. The bullies scatter. Rio tends to his friends with potions and escorts them to the bathhouse. The priest heals his wounds, but the group demands to know what monster he fought to end up so banged up. Rio leans back in the hot water with a sigh and says, I'll tell you another time. While enjoying his bath, he thinks how there are many things he needs to figure out, but for now, he decides he's just going to enjoy his bath. The next day, Rio's roommates are battling goblins deep in the dungeon. After a tough fight, Otto heals Omen, who gratefully thanks him. Once they collect their loot, they sit down to talk. That something feels off. There shouldn't be goblin archers on the 5th layer, Otto mutters. Eyebrows furrowed. Nils think that's unusual too. They decide it's safer to head to the surface, since they've already earned more than enough. Omen looks surprised. He asks, wait, you're just going to leave? Nils folds his arms and says with absolute seriousness, my motto is simple. Staying alive is my foremost duty. Ada teases him, saying, you totally stole that from Abel. Flustered, Nils quickly retorts, safety is important for all of us. Embarrassed, he pushes them toward the exit. Meanwhile, deeper inside the dungeon, an unknown monster tears through a group of unfortunate adventurers. Outside town, Rio is lost in thought, replaying his battle with Leonard. He's impressed by her magic, especially her moving speed, probably wind magic. But he's also proud that, in terms of casting speed, he managed to keep up with her. That he wonders, can I use water magic to move faster too? The first thing that comes to mind is the water jet he once used to propel himself underwater. On land, though, it's trickier. Rio tries creating ice on the ground, then conjures several water jets on his back to push him forward. Unfortunately, the result is, let's just say, less than majestic. He stumbles forward at snail speed. That he sighs. Well, progress is progress. Shrugging, he decides to head to the library to research Akumas and alchemy. Elsewhere in the library, Lynn flips through a forbidden spellbook. She's looking for any hint of spells that can conjure ice balls midair. Her expression turns serious. Not even Master Alien could do this kind of magic. Is Rio using original magic? If so, then he might even be on par with the legendary Inferno magician. Before she can think further, her friend Syra, the elf girl, appears. Lynn? You? In the library? That's unusual. Caught off guard, Lynn meets her and mentions that she was just looking for something but couldn't find it. She changes the subject immediately, asking Syra about her travels. Syra explains she just arrived back in town yesterday. After a brief chat, she excuses herself and heads her way to the Adventurers Guild. Nils and the team approach Lena. Nils, trying hard to speak, fumbles nervously. His words come out like a broken flute. Luckily, Otto steps in smoothly and presents the magic stones they obtained and explains their encounter. Lena's eyes widen after hearing that. Goblin archer stones? On the 5th floor? That hasn't happened in years. She thanks them for the information, then immediately rushes to the guild master's office to report it. The guild master listens carefully. His expression darkens. So the great title board is beginning. He asks Lena to tell him, how many B-rank parties are currently in town? Lena replies, the Crimson Sword and the Brigaders. They returned from quests 2 days ago. Summon both, he orders grimly. Meanwhile, Abel doesn't look thrilled. The Brigaders? Why them? One of his teammates smirks. Come on, you used to be childhood acquaintances. What's the big deal? When the Crimson group enters the office, they see the Brigaders already arrived. Abel meets them, and they sit down. The guild master wastes no time. Thanks them all for coming. He mentioned how goblin archers have been sighted on the 5th floor, and proof has been brought. Abel frowns. Are you sure about this? The guild master nods. Yes, their magic stones are undeniable. The Brigaders' leader crosses his arms. So, what do you want us to do? The guild master explains. Investigate the dungeon. Confirm whether another great tidal boar is coming. Everyone stiffens. It's been 10 years since the last one. That means the odds are high, but he offers 100 gold up front and 200 more upon return. Both groups accept reluctantly. Depart tomorrow morning. I'll lead you myself, the guild master says. The next day, Rio prepares to head to the Northside Library. Otto explains that only D-rank adventurers are allowed inside. And Omen, wide-eyed, asks, do you think there are forbidden texts there? Rio smirks mischievously. I hope so. Otto immediately crushes his dreams. Keep dreaming. You'd need to be at least B-rank to even touch them. Rio sulks, but Nils motivates him saying, don't worry, you'll be B-rank before you know it. Rio perks up and heads out. Soon he arrives at the library after paying 2 silver coins at the entrance. He receives a special metal pass. He thinks the Northside Library is smaller than the southern one, but it feels differently special. As he browses, he wonders if he can find anything about Akkomas. Though he knows he must keep his true interest secret, suddenly, he spots Syro again. The elf girl is reading quietly, but when she notices him, she smiles. Back in the dungeon, the two groups gather. The guild master prepares to open the massive door, but before he does, Abel asks him to wait. Since something feels wrong, he requested Lynn to check with her magic. She focuses her power and starts searching through the dungeon. Her face pales instantly. There are over 100 red eyes inside. Everyone gasps and realizes that the great tidal bore has already begun. The guild master immediately tells them to close the doors and alert the guild and the knights. Now, in town, chaos erupts. Adventurers rush to the walls as alarms blare. Notices go up. Shouts echo through the streets that AT the library. Syra approaches Rio cheerfully as she mentions that she's glad to see him again. You must be a local adventurer, right? Rio admits it. She extends her hand politely while introducing herself. Rio shakes it and introduces himself back. She tilts her head. What brings you here? He hesitates. He says he was looking for books about Aku, but quickly corrects himself and says books about alchemy. Alchemy. Her eyes brighten. That's unusual. Topic to study, she says. Rio mentions how he would like to create his own golem. That's ambitious, she laughs softly. There aren't books specifically on golem crafting, but there are some that can help. Follow me. I know where most of them are. As they walk, Syra asks about his reading habits. Rio admits that he used to read all the time, though it's been a while. You talk like it's been decades, she teases, but you look so young. Rio sweats nervously. Let's change the subject, and then asks about her. She reveals she's part of a B-rank party called Wind, though she's the only one in the team. Meanwhile, at the dungeon's outer wall, everyone braces for battle. And soon the doors shatter. Goblins flood out in waves immediately. Arrows rain down. Magic blasts illuminate the area. Crimson Sword and the Brigaders charge in, cutting down enemies left and right using bow. Priests heal the wounded. And soon knights join the fray, which relieves them a little, but the goblins just keep coming. Supplies dwindle. They run out of arrows, until townsfolk rush in with fresh bundles. Among them is Nils, who carries a message for Abel from the guild leader. The guild master believes a big one is coming, so he wants Crimson Sword Grupto be the main strike force. Abel nods grimly and agrees. As dawn breaks, the horde was almost finished, so the guild master orders the two groups to drop down from the walls. Lynn cushions their fall with magic, and they start fighting with the remaining goblins. They finish them off with precision teamwork. But then, a goblin generals emerge. They thought it was one, but realizes they were three. That can only mean one thing. A Goblin King is near. The battle begins. Phelps and Abel takes on one general each, while Rahia and Sheena face another. They gain the upper hand, until a sudden air slash nearly wipes them out, but thanks to Abel's timely warning they were able to dodge it. The true threat steps forward. The Goblin King, but then Phelps and Abel immediately attacked it, but realized that they couldn't pass his defense, only Abel's combat power could defeat it, so Abel steps up to attack it. He activates Perfect Shadow, dodging the King's blow, and strikes with total impalement. The monster roars, but doesn't fall. Phelps tells him that it is not over yet, but with no worries Abel signals Lynn. She unleashes her fully charged spell. Abel vanishes again with Perfect Shadow. The combined assault finally brings the beast down. The Goblin King crashes to the ground, lifeless. Everyone erupts in cheers. Phelps stares in awe. Crimson Sword, your teamwork is unreal. Meanwhile, Rio quietly exits the library, but in the depths of the dungeon, a hidden door can be seen. Don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss one of those flashy recaps.